Well. Hello, and here we are again, huh? I want to obviously start off by saying, hey, and welcome to Coach Ani, the podcast. In case you don't know, hey, I'm your host. Pretty much everybody calls me Coach Ani and or Ani. Nobody ever calls me by my full name, but I'm really, really excited to be here with you guys. I just feel like there's so many things I want to tell you guys and so many topics that I want to jump into. So I'll really start off with like, okay, well, why this podcast? What does it mean? What the hell am I even going to be talking about? And in case you actually have no idea who I am, I'll also let you know. So, hey, I'm Ani. I've been doing hair. I've been a hairstylist since 2009, since I was 19 years old. And back in 2015, I learned an extension method. And in 2016, I, joined the education. And a year later, I was actually recruited for the position of director of education. And I moved halfway across the United States, all the way from Missouri to California for that job. And that's actually what I've been doing for the past 5 years. I had built up my own business in Missouri, doing just hair extensions, actually making multiple 5 figures a month by only working 3 days a week. And I don't tell you that to be like, look at me, I'm so great. I made so much money. That's actually not what it's about. I'm aware that not only as a woman in an industry, given I'm not a minority in that industry, but a minority woman and an entrepreneur, it's not always easy, especially in an industry where we really are looked down upon. You know what I mean? No one says hairstyles and people are like, wow, you must be so smart, just like doctors. People are like, oh, that's so cute. You didn't have anything else to do? It's fucking gross, actually. So anyway, so for the past 5 years, I was director of education for a hair extension company, which essentially meant I did the education, I did all of the events, I sold the events, I trained the trainers, created manuals for the hair side, created manuals for the business side, and trained on not just hair extensions themselves, but how to really build a business inside of structure and systems and processes and pricing and marketing, which I have such a deep-rooted passion for, because it's so much more than just posting a photo, but also if you never just post a photo. Anyway, I'll get into that a different day. So that's basically what I did up until, I guess a couple weeks ago now. And now I'm on my own. And this is really a whole new journey of really going back to being an entrepreneur and completely working for myself, which, is so many great things about it and so many things that you don't even think about. And that's definitely a little bit of what I'm going to talk about today, because I know many of you are hairstylists, but I also know a lot of you are in the medical field. Some of you are realtors, a lot of different things that what I'll be talking about on my podcast is still, it's relevant to everyone. It's probably going to hit a little bit closer to home for artists and stylists because that's who I am and that's what I did do and still do. But the business, the marketing, and the mindset behind everything will still work for all industries. So I just want to start off by saying, hey, and thank you for joining me. And I'm really excited for this. And I'll definitely have other people on the podcast as well. And just, I'm not gonna lie, I already have the next one planned out and I'm actually pretty jazzed about it. So, but yeah, so like I said, it's so interesting because 2016, I completely worked for myself. You know what's so wild? I just found a note in my phone that said, I put it in January of 2017. And the note said, I think it said 65 vacation days in 2016. And I don't even really remember writing that, but I remember what it means other than the obvious 65 vacation days. And it's so crazy that 2016 is when I really started to completely change and revamp my business. And I was only working 3 days a week and I took 65 days off of work. I was out of town for 65 days that year, which when you hear, you're like, that's actually wild that I had the ability to do that. And now working for myself again, what I've kind of realized is it really puts you in a place of well, what now? Not what now in the terms of what do I want to do? Because I'm crystal clear on that vision, or what value do I want to continue to provide? Because once again, I'm very, very clear on that vision, but and like what it is that I want to do and how I see it playing out and who I want to help and all those things. But it's so funny because when you work for someone else, you're like, I will be up at this time. I do these things. I have to be at the office by this time. I'm there until this time. We eat lunch at this time. Then we go home. And sometimes you're still kind of like on, you know? And now being my own boss again, I feel like it's really opened up something for me where I'm like, what the fuck do I want to do? Like, genuinely, what do I want my days to look like? If I could create the most ideal scenario and situation, what does that look like for me? And although I feel like that's something that I've asked my artists a lot, where I'm like, well, where are you spending your time? What are you doing? And they're like, I don't know, because the thing and the thing and the other thing and the another, you know? And it's almost like when we're so used to being busy, that we forget that there's a difference between being busy and being productive. You know what I mean? And so what I've noticed now is there's so many things I want to do that sometimes it's hard to focus. Like, has that ever happened to you where you're like, you have the work hat that you're wearing, but then you also have like the home hat, whether it's mom, whether it's wife, whether it's girlfriend, whether it's just you, but there's still shit you want to be doing at home. Then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, I want to mop the floors and I need to do a load of laundry and I need to take the dogs out for a walk. And I also need to write up some social media posts for my own company. And then I have calls with the students. And then, okay, I have these things. And then I want to create this, where all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do first? And you have those moments and then you just like freeze. Like, that's it. And you don't move. And then you sit there and then you realize how overwhelmed you are. And then you're so overwhelmed that you're like, I'm just gonna sit and I'm just gonna take a nap because I'm so exhausted and I'm overwhelmed. And then you end up doing nothing. Like, you literally end up doing nothing. And I'll say I've beat that because I actually really like being busy, but I've learned I really love creating a schedule that works for me, like in the way that I want, whether it's surfing or CrossFit or like walking the dogs, like whatever it is. So I really want to tell you guys some tips and tricks and things that like I've learned when I'm hitting that point of overwhelm, of there's just so much to do. There's so much to do. What do I do first? What gets my attention first? Like, what's happening here, you know? And so I'll say, like, the very first thing I always do is I fucking brain dump everything out onto a piece of paper. Does not matter what it is, even if it's something as stupid as like, take my shoes away from the front door and put them in the closet. I don't care. Any thought that's like swirling around my head, that's like stressing me out, that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, write up this email. Oh, but I really should put that bowl back in the sink. Oh, I forgot to. No, I don't care what it is. I brain dump. And once I feel like it's all out of my brain, I feel like that really gives me a chance to just like take a breath and not feel as though I'm going to forget something. Because you know how that is? You're like, well, if I don't do it right now, then I'm going to forget. But then by switching course and doing something else, now you're forgetting to do the other thing. It's wild. And it's, I hate when that happens. Because then, has this ever happened to you? And then you sit there and you're like, what was I supposed to do? I had a thing that I really needed to do. And it was important. And now you're almost like panicky because you don't remember the thing that you knew you had to do that you stopped doing to go do something else. Yes, I have been there, and there's no way in hell I'm the only person. So once I have like my entire list written down, I start taking a look and I start not even like physically categorizing it, but almost like mentally, where I'm like, okay, what's the most detrimental? What's the most important thing? And or what has the most like upcoming, the first deadline? Which one of these am I hitting first? And then from there is where I start to just be like, okay, here we go. So let's say I have to write, the social media post for next week. Okay, that's very important. I have to make a reel for tomorrow or whatever it is. Then I will literally sit down, and guys, I'm a big fan of set a timer. Set a timer, set a timer, set a timer. However much time you give yourself to do something will be the amount of time that you actually take to do it. Because so if you're sitting there and you're trying to write like a caption for a photo, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know, I have a couple hours. And I actually just talked to a student, and she was like, well, I sit down, And then I try to type a caption, like write something, and then I can't write something. So then I go onto Instagram to look for inspiration, and I'm like, and then let me guess, I'm like, you scroll for 20 minutes. She's like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you don't want to do. You're like allowing yourself to be distracted. So if ever I know like it's a focus issue or focus issue, or I'm overwhelmed, I'm just like, okay, we're going to do one thing. We are only focusing on this one thing, and it's creating this reel. Okay, great. I'm going to set a timer. I have 15 minutes to do it. Because if I give myself 40, 45, 50 minutes to do it, I will take up that entire time. Like I will 100% take up that entire time every single time. So instead I'm like, okay, you have 15 minutes to get this done. So I go through, make the reel, done. Okay, I save it to my Instagram or the company's Instagram. And then I'm like, okay, that's ready to go tomorrow. And then that's where I take my quote unquote break. Because I know a lot of artists, and have you guys like, if you try to like sit down and hyper focus on one thing, all of a sudden you're just like, gosh, it sure does look sunny outside. I wonder if I went to the distributor today, if they have any new like color. Wonder if my client's happy with her hair. You know what? Let me check her Instagram. And then all of a sudden you're just like off into la la land because you just, frankly, you don't want to fucking focus on the thing in front of you. So that's why I really like to almost not like switch up my mind, but like give my mind a break. Just give my mind a break. And here's actually a wild story. And I think I've told it before on my TikTok. My boyfriend and I went to a dispensary, right? And bear in mind, we live in California. It's completely legal. It's fine. So we're talking to the lady, and my boyfriend had basically said like, hey, no matter what she takes, it's always like, lights out, done, I'm out, I'm asleep. And she looked at me and she's like, oh, you're high functioning. And I was like, blink, blink. I'm sorry. Like, what? I don't think I understand what you mean. And she was like, let me guess. Like, you talk really fast. Your brain works really, like your brain goes really fast. You're always up. You're this, you're that. She starts like naming off all these things. And I was like, I'm all of those. And she's like, yeah, you're high functioning. And I was like, you're calling me autistic? Like, I'm sorry. I don't actually know what that means. And so she's like, basically, she's like, you're very smart and your brain is always moving so fast. I was like, yes. She goes, your brain can't go any faster. Like, you've tapped it out. You're up to here. Yay me. And she goes, but that also means that anything you take that's meant to like, because sativas are more like, you're going to be awake. And you take anything like that, she's like, it's just going to bring you down because like you're already tapped. And I was like, fascinating. So anyway, she recommended a bunch of other things, whatever, totally fine. My boyfriend leave and he's like, did she call me stupid? I was like, I don't know. I think she called me autistic. So it was fine. But that's how I am, that my mind is always running, that sometimes I do feel like it can almost go into like overdrive. And then the thing that I wanted to do, now I'm either like overwhelmed by it, or I don't want to do it, or I'm just like losing focus, might be a really good way to put it. So at that point, I like to like give my mind like a quote unquote break, right? So it might be like, all right, Ani, you have 15 minutes to get this reel done. Once you get the reel done, we're going to switch away from business for a minute. Go do a load of laundry. I don't know. Go put your shoes away, or go do this, or go clean something, or something that's just almost like mindless, to give my brain that break, which is why I also say I'm a really, really, really big fan of meditating, because if you don't meditate and your brain is always going, it's like putting your phone on a charger, guys. You have to, yes, like you charge your brain at night, but during the day, if you're putting out so much, like imagine you have 50 apps running, which if you go clear out your apps right now. Like pause me, go clear out your apps and go look at how many there are. That drains your battery even more. So when you're in the salon and you're dealing with phone calls, you're dealing with assistants, and then you're dealing with clients. Now your client's crying because of the thing that happened however long ago. And now that's a lot. And then your assistant makes up the wrong color. The fucking hair didn't actually tone the way you thought that it would. Like those things take so much that it's good to just have that little reprieve. So I've really found that works great for me. And then honestly, if there's a task I don't want to do, I try to find like a good resting point for it. So let's say it's because I make all of my content a week in advance. So any of you that are out there and you're like, it's fine. Like I'll just make my post for today. No, you should really be doing that ahead of time. But if ever I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to do it, I almost give myself like a mini goal. Instead of saying, okay, you need, these 5 reels and these 3 photos. Okay. And by the way, I know that's 8. I don't need anybody coming to me and being like, do you hear how stupid Ani is? She just thought 5 + 3 was 7. No, I sometimes post more than once a day. But I might be like, okay, well, instead of getting all, 7, 8 posts ready, you're just going to do 2. Get these 2 done. You have X amount of time, and then I move on to something else. Otherwise, guys, like it can actually be hard. And I feel like when you're an entrepreneur and you're able to create your own schedule, it does come a point where you have to have, radical accountability. And you guys know, if you've ever heard me talk about it before, I love accountability. I love accountability on all sides. I don't care if you're right. I don't care if you're wrong. I don't care if it was a mistake, if it was on purpose. Like, to me, to be able to move forward from anything, I think like you need to have accountability. Like, I just need to have accountability within myself. I don't expect other people to have it. Like, you can't force what other people do. But when you're an entrepreneur and you work for yourself and you can do whatever the fuck you want, you also have to say like, this is what works best for me. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to make it happen. And you have to hold yourself accountable, because really, guys, man, if you are always relying on someone else to hold you accountable, you're going to have a bit of a rough go. I mean, really think about it, for the simple fact of like, well, what about the day when no one's there? Then what? Which is why I say sometimes you just have to like find that motivation within yourself to just get things done. So that's what works really well for me. And I'll let you know, if ever I do like take my mini break, let's say I work for 45 minutes and then I take like 5 minutes off and I'm still like can't get back in it. Yeah, I might take a little bit of a longer break. Or for me, that tells me like I need to get my body moving. It's not about taking energy drinks. It's not about having more coffee. Like, I just need to get my body moving. I will go for a walk. I'll take one of the pups. I'll do it by myself. I'll put some headphones in, or honestly, sometimes like put no headphones in and just like, I don't know, listen to the world and like nature, just to give myself a reprieve and a break. Because I get it, guys. Like, so many of you want to just like crush it. This is what I'm doing. I can do so much. And that's great. But honestly, sometimes at what cost? What are the things that you are not doing or not focusing on for yourself? Because being able to accomplish a lot is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. My capacity to do shit is so high. It's extremely high, even when it comes down to events and being on for 4 days straight. And that's happened. Like, even the last event that I did for the company, it was the company I used to work for, it was a 4-day event. And I was on the literal entire time. Like, we're talking, it's at minimum 8-9 hours a day. It's exhausting. Like, nothing drains me more, because you don't have like, even for my reprieve during the day was using the bathroom, and I use the bathroom like twice. Once in the morning, that's like 3 times. Once in the morning before the event, once at the evening after the event, and literally like 1 time in the middle. Like, there was no break for me. So that's why even I get like being at home and working from home is not that gnarly, and there's not that many people staring at you, I guess, depending what you do. But you still have to find those moments of reprieve, those moments to let your brain, instead of like cranking it out, trying to go 100 miles an hour and maxing out your capacity all the time, to take a few deep breaths and allow yourself that space, and allow yourself that grace to reset, recharge, and then go back in full force. So, and I know a lot of you, and I want to say this, even when it comes to scheduling yourself and creating a schedule in time that really works, I mean, sometimes you just have to admit on how much time you're wasting. And I know no one wants to hear that, but the amount, I'm like, guys, if you really like allow yourself the chance to get good at something and really put in the time, whether, even if something, like, it doesn't have to be, extensions or hair or whatever, it can literally be something as simple as like writing a caption. You have to give yourself time and like grace to keep doing these things. Even if you feel like you don't want to do it, sometimes you just like have to push through and stop wasting time. Because really, the amount of time I hear people say, that's what I was saying, the amount of time I hear people say like, I don't have time to do it. I'm like, I know You just sat on your toilet looking at TikTok, your hands, your elbows on your knees until your legs went numb. Like, I know you did that. And if anyone's ever gonna look at me and say that's never happened to them, I don't believe you. People get distracted. It happens. I'm not judging you. It's fine. I've done it. But if you're gonna waste like 10 minutes sitting on the toilet scrolling through Instagram, you can write a post. You can edit a photo. You can think up new ideas on whatever it is. So no, like, those are things that I don't sit on the toilet all the time. That's not what I'm trying to say. But can you imagine? Welcome to the podcast. Today I'm going to tell you about how much time I spend doing nothing. That's great. That's so awesome. No, absolutely not. So, but I just really want you guys to take a look at how you structure your day, or take even a look at like, when do you work best? Like, what are your best hours in the day? I will be honest with you. I freaking love working from like 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. I don't know what it is about that like 4-hour time span. And to be clear, that's not the only time I work. I work throughout the whole day, but there's something about that. I'm up, I'm awake, I'm excited. Let's go, let's do things. Like, I am jamming. But I will tell you, by the time I hit 1:30, 2 o'clock, I need a nap. I need to meditate for 20 minutes. My meditations turn into naps. I'm not even gonna lie. I can't be like, I'm so good at meditating. I imagine all these things. No, I close my eyes and I nap for straight up 20 minutes. But then when I get up, I feel so good. And that's what really matters, you know? Meditation, napping, it's like, who cares? But what I really want you guys to do is really take a look at your day, when you function the best, but also see like, where are you wasting time? Where are you wasting time that could be put better somewhere else? Maybe it's a simple thing that you implement from today where you're going through and you're like, I need to start setting timers. Holy shit. Yeah, you're right. I sit down and I'm like, whoo, I have an hour before dinner. I guess I'll come up with like one post. Okay, how about you set 15 minutes? Set a 15-minute timer, and instead of stressing yourself out for 45 minutes or a fucking hour, you just hunker down for 15 minutes, and now you have the next 45 to completely relax. 100% relaxation, and not the relaxation like, all right, I'm watching TV, but I should be doing that. Yeah, this is a great episode, but I think I forgot to do that. No, yeah, I'm so relaxed. I'm chilling. Did I ever text that client back? What am I going to post tomorrow? I don't think I edited that photo. Oh my God, what about my caption? I'm never going to get any more clients. I'm garbage. My business is client. My marketing's garbage. Everything is garbage. Like, I hate it. Or you just hunker down for 15 minutes. Everyone thinks there's secret tips and tricks to being successful. And something I've been saying for years is success is really difficult. But it actually doesn't have to be, guys. Little things and little wins and being consistent in the areas where it matter at the end of the day, like, that's how you win, and that's how you create success, because success is not found, it's created. And I don't create success for you. I'll give you tips and tricks and maybe like clear a little bit of path and like nudge you along the way, but at the end of the day, it's you. You create your life, you create your success, you create your income. Like, you are the one in charge. So maybe you need to ask yourself, like, let's say you, because I get it, if you're an entrepreneur, you are your own boss, but if you were your own employee, if you were your own employee, would you like how you are and or are not showing up? Because if the answer is no, then you might want to rethink some of the things you're doing. So, with all of those things being said, coming to the end of the very first episode of Coach Ani the podcast, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. There are so many topics that I want to talk to you guys about, and so many different things, even just when they involve the world and the things that are happening and marketing and how to handle all the tough things that are happening in the world and not let that sink you, not let that sink your business. Stay true to your morals, stay true to your integrity, and like, just keep moving forward. So know, between that, a lot of marketing things I cannot wait to tell you, and business building, which, like I said, this will go great for artists and hairstylists, but also whether you're in the medical field or real estate, all these things, so many of you have reached out to me in different fields. This will still help you. So guys, thank you for joining me on the very first episode of Coach Oni the podcast, and I'll see you guys next week.